Everyone, and welcome back to the Life Scope channel. On your way in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It's appreciated as always. So, I wanted to come on here and listen with you all, the district attorney, tell us what the actual charges are for Sean Diddy Combs. So, let's get into this video and then we will talk along the way.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
So let me just pause right there. So it seems like the charges that they have thrown at Diddy officially, federal court, are the things that we have been hearing in regards to his civil suit cases, the sex trafficking, the racketeering. So basically, Sean Diddy Combs allowed his sexual appetite to cause his business downfall. He used his business name or under the guise of his business in order to participate in all of these freakouts. And that is so sad. You literally screwed over your business, your potential to continuously make money, have generational wealth because you want to engage in some freaky sex. Just really think about it. Now, I know it is beyond that. It's a part of control, it's a part of thinking this is what bosses are supposed to do, which is to extort and take control over people and tell them what to do. To me, you don't have to, and it's a thin line, but you don't have to strong arm your employees in order to get the best work out of them. You don't have to do that. And it seems like Sean Diddy Combs, from what we're hearing, it seems like he enjoys being that type of person that has a sense of power over other people. Because to me, it just shows that this is what you would do when you are in control. But you have to look at how the people up under you are turning out. If nobody's making any money, if everybody's on drugs, if everybody is just messed up and they were up under you, that is a reflection of you being their boss. Now, everybody does have accountability, responsibility for themselves, their families, and everything else, but it's like an unnecessary hurdle when the boss tries to make you get into some things you're not even thinking about in order to get put on. And literally, Sean Combs messed up his empire for some freaky deaky sex. Let's continue.
Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee.
And we definitely know who the district attorney is speaking of. He's talking about Cassie because, again, Cassie's name is now forever tied to Sean Diddy Combs, but in a different manner because her lawsuit was very instrumental into bringing everything to light and exposing him, as well as giving people probably the courage to do the same thing. So they're going to forever be talking about Cassie in regards to this, but at least it will be hopefully received well and deemed in a more positive way. Because if it wasn't for her case, we don't know if these people would have ever come forward. And I'm gonna just say this too, in regards to victims. Just because one person has come forward, I think it's unfair for maybe, for instance, the person who's come forward to try to put it on other people to come forward. No, that was a choice that you made. If you are a victim, don't try to get other victims to step forward until they are ready to do so. Cassie didn't do anything like that, but I'm just saying or bringing that to light because of different things that I've heard with people who have like been victims of different situations, but that can coincide with what P. Diddy did to his victims. And then it's almost like they're mad. They're a victim, but then they're mad at other victims for not coming forward because it would have made the case that much more stronger sooner. So I don't like that either. Everybody has a right to come forward and to not come forward when it is their time to do so. Do not push people out until they are ready. It's, to me, that's a form of almost badgering a victim in a way, even if you are a victim. Now you're taking on what the victimizer would do. Well, you need to do this, you need to do this. No, just allow people to find their own way in terms of what they want to do and what's going to be best for their life. Let's get back to the video.
As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance.
And I don't think I'm really trying to hammer this home because I don't know if y'all have ever just really, I know some people have, but just even know or just seen life for real, because it really amazes me when people think that it was literally so easy for these folks to just walk away. Technically, they could have got up and walked away at any time, right? But if somebody One was giving you drugs. Have y'all seen folks on drugs? Have y'all really seen people on drugs and how they act? Their mind is gone. And I'm talking about in terms of it's like they're there, but they are on a form of autopilot where they're not really the same person that you know them to be when they're not on drugs. And then that makes them do all kinds of stuff that they would not normally do. It's almost like how people have alcohol and that saying that the truth is told through a drunk man's lips. It's almost like that, but at the same time, this form being on whatever drugs, powder, shoot 'em up, otherwise, whatever, it's almost like they are a totally different person. Some type of evil alter ego comes out when they're on that substance, and then it makes them act in a way that they would never probably have acted. And some people are much more stronger than others mentally to where they don't break down and they could probably do drugs all day and it doesn't make them go do anything crazy. And, if that's them, then you're a miracle baby or something. But most people getting into drugs, all those chemicals that you pumping into yourself, yeah, it's going to make you show out big time. So, just think about that. He was giving them drugs. He had them doing things to where it may look like they were down with it. But also, they had to keep in the back of their mind if they didn't do this, they would not be able to have money to not only feed themselves, maybe take on feeding their family, making sure their family is straight. So all of those elements that's literally wheeled in front of you, what would you do in that situation? Because it's easy to say, hey, I'm just gonna walk away or I ain't gonna even get involved. But like I said, if you've seen people on drugs, I don't think people really have actually seen how folks really showed out. It's crazy. So let's get back to this video.
Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs's crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee.
Now, let me just point this out. It doesn't escape me that Diddy could have been subjected to messed up situations himself. Like there are rumors going around that he and allegedly Clive Davis, who's one of the biggest producers out here, had a relationship. And someone had to put Diddy on, and there have been names dropped as to who put him on, who got him started in the business, because he started off as a backup dancer, from what we know, and then just being an A&R intern type of guy and just working his way up. But while working your way up and learning more, you are exposed to certain people and certain things. So it doesn't escape me that somebody probably came at Diddy the way that he is coming or came at the victims. However, in the civil suits, in the case period, I heard his attorney say at least a couple of times, or it has been said, oh, this is happening to a black man, and this is going on with a black man. And that makes it so much worse because if them other people that's like Clive Davis's color and them. If them other non-black people were doing that to you, Diddy, then why the hell would you turn around and do the exact same thing to people who look like you? And now your attorney has to defend you years later and say, well, this is happening to a black man. You didn't get no shit about that when you were doing it, Diddy. Let's just keep it honest. Let's be real honest here. He didn't care about none of that. But look who's in trouble and look who ain't in trouble. So it makes it that much worse for the attorney to even bring that up. Does that play a role in a lot of cases? Absolutely, it does. We're not blind here. But at the same time, he chose to go down that same road. So now all of that he has to hold. It's like a big bag of L's Diddy got a hold now because that's the road he chose to go down. He wanted to be probably like them men who created freak offs for real, for real. So it doesn't escape me that there are bigger players that's doing much more than Diddy probably could have ever done. But that doesn't mean you get to avoid responsibility for what you have done, Diddy, because you are the one. Clearly, you're not big enough. You're big, but you're not big enough because he's getting in trouble, but we don't see the other people getting in trouble. Let's continue on.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kind.
And see, this is what I was talking about last night. Did they find visual proof? Because it was said through the rumor mill that, yeah, they found videos in his home that they seized, and it was showing him doing his freak off business. But now it's actually been said that this is what they have, because they didn't say it yesterday, but now this is what they have. So everything that has been put out there, he's officially being charged with, and we've already heard that information. So I'm just wondering, is there anything new that this district attorney is going to say? Because I really don't want to kind of keep rehashing the same thing, but I do want to know, is there anything new going on in terms of, are they going to hold Diddy? I think I did hear that he was going to be held, but I'd like for him to get to that. Let's try to skip a little bit. Maybe he'll.
I get it if y'all think the states have.
Uh-oh. No, 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 no. We're not showing no commercials unless I'm putting them out.
Other cases. I'll now take some questions.
Okay, yeah, let's get
Eric
the
Katursky,
questions.
ABC.
Thanks, Nick. Damian, thanks. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent, hedonistic abuse that you say was recurrent and widely known. Why did it take law enforcement so long to intervene? How many women were victimized by Sean Combs, and how many others were involved?
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today. And we are committed to making sure that justice is done. Next question.
Thank you. Julia Ainsley, NBC.
Thank you for doing this. You said we are not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
Janet.
Uh-oh. So that definitely means if the investigation is still ongoing, even though they got P. Diddy, they are not going to stop. So that is a possibility of whoever was around P. Diddy, whoever was his second in command, third in command, so to speak, or whoever he was probably dealing business-wise with, could also probably get this heat thrown their way as well.
Fisher, Newsday.
What's the difference between the sex trafficking and promoting travel for the purpose of prostitution?
Well, there are different crimes with different elements. I don't think we should get into the nitty-gritty of the legal discussion right now, but the sex trafficking, we believe, they're all serious offenses, but the sex trafficking conduct carries some significant penalties, and we are gratified that we were able to bring that charge.
One more coercive than the other?
I'm not going to be able to get into that, but you can look it up, and yes, sex trafficking, especially when it involves coercion or force, is a very serious crime, and it carries.
That is a good question, though. Like, what is the difference between sex trafficking and then prostitution traveling? He summed it up, and the other guy who asked the question summed it up as well. One is coercion, like Diddy forced women to probably move here, move there, go out of town here and there. Prostitution, yes, although they've had tragic lives and whatnot, they are still the ones that's making the decision to travel, like being a free agent, and you are going to this state and that state of your own free will, basically. So that was a pretty good question.
Very significant penalties.
Good afternoon, Darla Miles, ABC7 New York. Thank you for this press conference and for the details. Two questions. In context of this indictment and the information that was presented to the grand jury, are you able to clarify the number of victims? it's mentioned plural in the indictment, but can you specify the number of victims just for this particular indictment? And secondly, can you provide details about the alleged arson?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide either. The number of victims, you are correct. We are intentional in saying multiple. The details of the arson incident are limited to what we have in the indictment and also the detention letter that we filed, which contains more details than the indictment does at various points. But we don't have anything more beyond that. Next question.
Lynn Tran, CNN.
Are any of his accomplices or associates under investigation? And additionally, could he face any more charges?
So the investigation is ongoing. That means both as to him and to anyone else who we believe committed the crime with him. Next question.
Juliet Papa.
Hi, good morning from 1010 Wins. Any indication that some of the women or victims here were imprisoned in his residences? And did he have locations where he kept them and were not allowed to leave? And also, he's indicted here, although there were searches and raids in LA, Miami. Why in New York?
Well, I'm biased. I'm the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. I think that we have an outstanding track record of bringing some of the most impactful, sprawling, complex, difficult sex trafficking, human trafficking, labor trafficking, you name it. The Southern District of New York can do it, and so we're very proud of that. And so the scope and complexity of this investigation isn't something that we ran from. It's something that we embrace, and we will continue to do that. As to your question about whether he imprisoned anyone, all I can say is that, I mentioned this March 2016 incident where something was caught on video where a victim was attempting to flee, and there was violence that was associated with it.
So not Diddy. So the district attorney just saying basically they just wanted to get a crack at him first. Hold on.
At a hotel.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press.
Thanks a lot. Does your office intend to seek remand, or are you reaching a bail package? And if you're willing, how would you contrast this with the R. Kelly case in EDNY in terms of the elements? Thanks.
So we will be seeking detention. We have filed a letter laying out our reasoning for seeking pretrial detention. I'm not going to be able to expand beyond what's in the letter, but it contains all of the reasoning, and it contains the law as well. There is a presumption of detention in a case like this, and we think that's warranted.
John Anise, New York Daily News.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some more detail about the searches of his residence, the guns, the cases of lubricant, and the videos. Where were they found amongst his residents? Were they all scattered around the houses in one place? I kind of wanted to just get a better picture of how that stuff was found.
Well, look, I think that some of the details that you're seeking are in the detention letter. So, for instance, some of the AR-15s, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in his bedroom closet in Miami, broken down into parts along with magazines with ammunition loaded in them. So some of that detail is in the detention letter. Beyond that, I'm not going to be able to get into where other items were stored.
Ben Kochman, Post.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Your office was the office that had been prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein before he died in custody. I have not read your detention memo yet. It's the first thing I'm going to do after this ends. But does the memo address, or is your office concerned with Combs's safety in custody, given what happened with Epstein?
So we are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. It's part of our obligations to keep people safe as well. It's part of the criminal justice system. So, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pre-trial. And of course,
Yeah, and that's a good point in terms of what the district attorney is saying. Why draw a comparison? However, people are going to do that and have done that. And I don't feel that Sean Diddy Combs will do that to himself. I don't think he would do such a thing. Now, if somebody else was to take on that from behind bars or whatever, however, setup, hit ups, whatever, then it is what it is. But I don't think he would necessarily pull a Epstein, allegedly an Epstein.
The decision whether to detain the defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pretrial detention is warranted under the law and based on the facts of this case. And I'll leave it at that.
Are some of the prosecutors on this case some of the same prosecutors that had been handling that or that worked on the Maxwell case?
So I'm not going to get into the staffing. I will say that this team, this group of AUSAs, this incredible group has been working on this case around the clock, and they've had their hands full. Next question.
Gus Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Let me just say this. I think that generally with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
Mike Sisak, AP.
Thanks. To that end, was there any discussion of Mr. Combs surrendering? I understand he was taken into custody at a hotel in Manhattan last night, and maybe that wasn't the plan. Can you elaborate on how that came about and why that was?
I'm not going to be able to get into any sort of operational details as to how he was taken into custody and when. He is in custody right now. He will be appearing in court later today.
Was there any discussion of him surrendering, given they claim he's cooperating?
I'm not going to be able to get into law enforcement tactics or operations.
Sound like he is not going to be able to get into all of the tidbits of details that the reporters are asking him. But I just want to point out how the district attorney said the way that Combs's attorney and Sean Diddy Combs assume cooperating is not the way that the district attorney deems cooperating to be. So the district attorney is saying cooperating is one way, but Diddy, he didn't really cooperate it unless he was forced to do so. But it's not the same as what the district attorney is talking about. So I wanted to play this all the way to the end, but if it's going to be just him saying, I'm not going to get into that and not really giving up any details, then I think it's pretty much done with that. So I am going to go to something else. And I actually got the indictment up from the Washington Post. It's a 14-page indictment. Now, the district attorney went over everything fairly quickly without just necessarily having to read it. But I will just scroll through. So let me just scroll through this off the Washington Post. And you already see the document. And count one, racketeering conspiracy, given the overview with all of Sean Combs' aliases added to make sure that it is very specific to him and who they are talking about. And I'm just looking at this. the Combs enterprise. So yeah, the district attorney went over most of this. He probably was reading some of this, or most of it. Okay, the racketeering conspiracy. Notice of special sentencing factor from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Then you got the count two with the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. And count three, transportation to engage in prostitution. Okay, so the the district attorney basically summed up what is in this indictment. So, I mean, if you want to read it for yourself, the Washington Post has it up, but he pretty much went over everything for us and gave a lot of information. Like, we've already heard most of this stuff beforehand, but now it's an official charge. So, I really wanted to know, and he probably said it at the end, and I just cut it off. I really wanted to know, how long are they going to hold him? Will they let him bond out? And I'm just looking at other stuff to see if I could quickly find it. So yeah, that is pretty much it. And I was just looking as I was talking to you all to see what's what. So I do see that he was denied bail. That's what I heard earlier. He's denied bail and will remain in custody. So they're not even letting him bond out today. And I guess his attorneys are working on that with the district attorney to see if they could get him at least out beforehand. Uh, what else is going on with Mr. Combs? Yep, that is about it. The only thing that is a little silly in nature is, of course, 50 Cent taking shots at P. Diddy. 50 Cent posted saying, "Here I am keeping good company with the Drew Barrymore show, and I don't have 1,000 bottles of lube at the house." Yeah, 50 be just moving like he don't have nothing in his background at all. Anyway, I've kept you all long enough. What do you think about all of this? Was it just time for Diddy to get caught up with? Yeah, I think it is. It's time for him to get caught up with, and sometimes you just get caught up. Also, again, I just want to reiterate his attorneys saying, "Oh, this is happening to a black man," and, kind of using that or putting that out. Although we definitely do understand how the system works, like I have said, I'm sure his handlers or people that are above him put him through some things. However, you ultimately, as a black man, turn around and did the same thing. So what was the point of giving you power if you were going to turn out just like them? That's just my opinion. What do you think about that? Let me know down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, definitely subscribe. And until next time, bye.